Hi, Isabel.
Welcome back to Sci-Burst, a podcast about science, popular culture, and entertainment. We're your hosts, Isabel.
And Ella, two science communication and sci-fi absolute nerds. And we are steering this spaceship into the multiverse of science fun. Today's episode, Multiverse. Everything everywhere all at once. Where did it come from? Why do we like it? And where is it going?
I'm so excited about today's episode.
Me too, me too.
Yes, but before we get into it, let's hear some recommendations.
Welcome to Culture Snap. So, today I'm recommending a video essay by a little creator called Creative Elf. And the video essay title is The Point of Multiverse Movies. So I'm not gonna spoil too much of it because we are gonna go a little bit into multiverse today, as we've already kind of signposted. But I think this would be like a great companion piece if you want to do some more thinking on the topic. I found it like a really cool perspective that I didn't have. And it kind of talks about, it kind of introduces you and talks about multiverse in media, particularly the two main movies. Well, the main movie we're going to talk about today and another side one we're going to bring up.
Okay.
Everything Everywhere All at Once and Doctor Strange's Multiverse of Madness. And it explores like corrupted versions of self, talks about unforgiving consequences and how through our choices we decide our own fate. So like pretty big thoughts for, I think it goes for like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Ooh, okay. Well, that's short too. So
yeah, so it's really concise. I really enjoyed it. It features a lot of like film clips, which is something that we can't do in a podcast, but I highly recommend if you like today's episode, or I hope you will, Isabel, considering you're making it with me, going and checking it out.
Yeah, no, that sounds like something I need to go watch. So for me,
tell me.
I don't know. We don't know when this episode is going up, but
we're really good at timing.
But the recording is happening just at the end of NAIDOC week. So I wanted to recommend something that was First Nations content. And there's a new superhero universe that's just being started, which is called Indigiverse.
You're kidding. That sounds so cool.
I'm so excited about it. And the first comic has come out and I've ordered it and it's arriving in like a month. It's called Darkheart. And it follows this superhero called Adam Hart, who's a mixed race Aboriginal, a uni student and also a foster child from the Kimberleys. And he has his powers from the dreaming and also has galactic ties to a mysterious supreme race, which I guess we're going to find out about in the comic.
That's so sick. I'm going to steal this from you immediately when it arrives.
I know. It's like, how cool is it that we get to be around at a time where the first edition of like a new comic is coming out too? And this is something this cool too.
It feels it feels almost like nostalgic, even though it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. Right?
I love it.
I know. And also the next character is going to be a female named Dreamwalker, which I'm also excited about.
Such a good name. Such a good like superhero name.
Yes.
Yeah.
And speaking of universes.
Whoa. Segue time.
The multiverse is a really big thing at the moment in media.
But is something else a really big thing in media, Isabel?
The NASA images?
The NASA images? I have been looking at them all the time. All the time.
Yeah, same. Which one's your favorite one?
Them all. I like just zooming in on weird little sections and just looking at it and being like, this is the first time I think I've seen this in as much detail.
I love all the nebula ones. And the one that looks like, I think it's crazy how similar things on the macro scale look to things on the micro scale.
I like this train of thought a lot.
Yeah. Like, I think it's a nebula, one of the photo I'm thinking of. It looks like cell division.
I was about to say, a lot of them I could definitely see as like cell parts.
Yeah.
You know?
But yes, cool photos of the universe, early universe.
Amazing.
Let's go back to the multiverse.
The multiverse? Isabel, what? Multiverse.
Yeah, so that's a really big thing in entertainment at the moment.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of themes of it right now.
So obviously we've just had Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Which we saw together and which
was great.
Amazing.
Multiverse of Madness, like
Yeah.
you said. And then we've also heard, Stranger Things
Stranger Things
is another big one.
Oh, the recent Spider-Man movies as well.
Yeah, the Spider-Man movie, like a lot of the superhero films. Coraline, Rick and Morty.
Loki.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Heaps and heaps.
That's a lot of things. That is a lot of things all focusing in on the same theme recently.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Ella, do you want to tell us what the multiverse is and maybe the difference between multiverse, parallel universe, daughter universes? Because there's a lot of different names.
Yeah, so we're throwing around a lot of jargon right now, which is something that neither of us are massive fans of as science communicators. So multiverse, parallel universe, what does it all mean? There are lots and lots of different interpretations of this, as I found out doing some reading, like even physics papers, which is kind of like where multiverse theory came from. They can't all agree on the same description of the multiverse. There are kind of like the more popular ideas and like ideas that are sprouted from it. So these are kind of the ideas that have been taken from like scientific literature, and like have transformed to make sense for like the media we're consuming. So this is one version of them, but this is the version that we understand the best. So multiverse is kind of like this idea that everything in this universe that we're in is a very, very small part of one bigger structure. And that outside of the universe that we can observe, so outside of anything we can see with the WWST telescope, there might be other disconnected universes, which may or may not be similar to the universe that we live in. So
mind blown.
That's a big concept to take in.
Yeah, as if like the universe isn't already a really big thing to think about and how small that makes you feel. Now think about there's multiple.
Yeah.
Well, could be.
There could be multiple. Sure. And maybe they're connected, maybe they're disconnected. So multiverse is kind of like this idea that encapsulates it all. And there is a lot of kind of like smaller terms that like talk about like specific versions of this.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of the time in media is like when they say multiverse of madness, or when we say Everything Everywhere All at Once is a multiverse film, we're talking about kind of like a more specific version of multiverse. So like parallel universes as part of multiverse theory comes from this idea that there are only so many ways that matter can arrange itself. So matter being kind of like substance elements. There's only so many ways it can arrange itself if we're in a finite or in an infinite universe. Both ways eventually matter's going to have to repeat itself in the way it's arranged. Therefore, matter will repeat itself in the way that it's arranged. So there will be other universes where matter is the exact same as it is here.
Yeah, and another phrase they sometimes use is dimensions. Another dimension. And that's also like, depends on the film you've watched too. Sometimes they'll call it alternate dimension. Sometimes it will be parallel universe.
So all these words kind of thrown around, but this idea that just due to there being a finite amount of combinations, we will end up here again. Yeah. But not us. Another place.
Yeah. Ooh.
Okay, so hold on to your brains because we're going into daughter universes. Now this is actually part of quantum mechanic theory. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not a physicist. I have tried to read some papers. They have made very little sense. But we're going on this journey together. So in terms of quantum mechanic theory, this is based on the behavior of some subatomic particles.
Yes. It's basically the physics, the very weird physics that happens at the very small level.
Yeah. So like we were talking about with those awesome space pictures, definitely on the micro scale for this.
Yeah.
And daughter universes, the theory behind it suggests that the laws of probability, or through the laws of probability, each outcome of your decision making creates another universe or has occurred in another universe. And this is very much the camp that Everything Everywhere All at Once fits into.
For sure. And then it's not just that each decision you make creates another universe. It's that all of the decisions and the different pathways happens at once. So like all the different probabilities happen at the same time.
Yeah.
It's not, which is also like
just another thing to understand.
Yeah.
So, but the fact that it's like based on probability is so sick. is so sick. And we'll get into that a bit more.
Yeah, we will.
But the fourth kind of version that I wanted to touch on is a bubble universe, which I find the most difficult to comprehend, so therefore it excites me the most.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I exist as a human. Like, I don't understand it and I really want to.
Yeah.
So bubble universes, this theory suggests that other universes could have different laws of physics to our own.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't like any of the other previous like smaller theories we've spoken about. They have the same laws of physics. But bubble, I can't even begin to imagine different laws of physics. I barely understand the ones we currently have.
Yeah.
But this comes from a school of physics thinking from eternal inflation theory, which is where some parts of space stop getting bigger and others still grow. Therefore, they can have different laws impacting them.
Oh, wait, hang on. So different laws in different parts of the same universe.
So bubble universes have different laws of physics.
Okay.
So like bubble universe 1 could have a different law of physics to bubble universe 2.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. And in terms of like growing, this is similar to how the Big Bang made our own universe inflate. So the Big Bang happened, we went whoosh and got really, really big. And bubble universes is kind of like the idea that there are multiple universes, but some of them stop growing and some of them don't. And how on a very, very fundamental level, this changes them completely from each other. And I don't understand. And I want to. I would really like to see media based on bubble universes.
Yeah. No, I have a feeling there must have been something done already. Maybe not like
a film or something.
Yeah.
Surely there's works of fiction.
Yeah. If you guys know an example,
please message me.
Yeah, please tell us.
I'd love to know.
Because I want to read that, see that.
Consume it, love it.
Exactly.
Talking about things that we loved and that we consumed, I said earlier we watched Everything Everywhere All at Once together.
So good.
Oh my God. Do you want to give like a basic kind of like plot overview?
So
there will be spoilers.
I was just about to say, I'm going to try my best to give like all the necessary information without spoiling the film. So basically, it follows a Chinese American woman, Evelyn, who's under the stress of a failing laundromat, ailing marriage, disapproving father, and declining relationship with her daughter, plus taxes.
So nothing going wrong there at all. Don't worry about it.
No, everything's perfect in her life.
Apart from nothing at all.
But then there's also this crazy multiverse thing happening at the same time. And things go quite quickly from stressful to surreal, or maybe it's more like a combination of stressful and surreal.
Yeah, it's kind of like these things are happening all at once, you might say.
Yes.
Whoa.
And so Evelyn discovers a way of accessing the parallel universes within the multiverse and can tap into alternate versions of herself, and then is dragged into a quest of saving the multiverse, basically.
You know, no biggie.
No biggie. Nothing big.
Nothing big. Not just saving your own universe and world.
So the movie is literally Everything Everywhere All at Once because
the title fits so well.
Oh, it's perfect. And you know what? It's also scientifically accurate.
Wait, what? Tell me more.
Yeah. So it's actually a really good way of describing how the universe works.
Okay.
Because if you think about space time, we don't say space and time. It's both space. It's space time. That makes sense.
I have a brain that is very much trying to comprehend and can't.
Because it is. I'm trying my best to explain that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
it's hard
I think
to
it
think
makes
about.
sense, but that's really hard to conceptualize.
Yeah.
You kind of think as like, you know, you've got your little X and Y axes and one of them is space and one of them is time. But that you can control them individually.
Well, when physicists talk about the universe, they say space time.
Yeah.
Like the two work together.
That's so wild.
I know.
They're like dependent variables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the film, like Ella said, is the example of a daughter universe.
Oh yeah.
Type. So the universe creates a copy of itself at every possible outcome of a situation.
So there are all these universes where Evelyn has made
Yes.
different choices, different outcomes. They've led in some really wacky directions.
Yeah. So every choice Evelyn makes, it spawns a new universe, basically.
So cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
And then they're all happening at the same time as well. So that's also wild.
Enough to give anyone a headache, honestly.
Yeah. But yeah, so it is a theory derived from quantum mechanics. And I'm also not going to go into details of that, but if you're super keen, we will link some papers on our socials for you to go and read up about that.
Always more learning to be done, but we cannot fit everything in.
Yeah, I mean, you know what they say about quantum mechanics anyway, is if you think you understand it, you don't actually understand it because it's that crazy.
I love that. I love that so much.
But basically it describes the world in terms of probabilities rather than definite outcomes.
Like nothing is certain, anything could happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And the movie definitely goes with that anything could happen.
Yeah,
I think that's one of my favorite parts of it.
Yeah.
Not to spoil too much, but
yeah.
kind of like jumping between parallel or daughter universes based on doing something weird.
Yes.
That's so fun. That is such a fun idea.
Yeah.
I love having fun with like scientific theory and stretching it.
Yes.
So cool.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, something I love that the film has done, it has actually taken some pretty complex science and maths concepts and visualized them. Not just visualize, obviously with artistic license, a very heavy artistic license.
But it's
you get to do that.
Yeah.
So it's not just visualize them, but then it's also tried to make them relatable and create meaning out of it too. So it's things like pairing a small scale human feeling with multiverse. Basically.
Which makes it so accessible.
Yeah. And so it's asking things like how infinity is this thing, but how does it make you feel?
Really small.
Yeah.
But in a good way,
So,
I think by the end of the film, you feel really good about being small.
Yeah, I think so. So there's I'll give an example, which I don't think this is a spoiler, which is there are some scenes where they juxtapose a passive aggressive argument with a family member against the annihilation of every possible universe.
Mm.
Maybe that is a spoiler.
No. Well, it's vague. It's vague. That's fine.
Yeah.
So they juxtapose, quite a small, inconsequential action ?
Yeah.
Or argument with the literal heat death end of the universe.
Yes.
And you know what? They are very, very similar. And in the moment to each of those people, even though it's the same person, it means the same.
Mm.
And I think that is such a cool way to show it and still give it meaning and not just have like this massive end of the universe thing is bigger than an argument you have with your family member, because both are equally important.
Yeah.
And that's really cool to give meaning to your own personal relationships.
Yeah.
In the face of something as a concept so huge as multiversal theory.
Yeah.
Like to say that each action, each conversation you have is still meaningful.
Yeah.
I love it. And I think that just speaks about potential.
Yeah.
Here we go. Potential is one of my favorite words ever. I think we're going to go into it a lot throughout this podcast, but just so you know, dear listeners, potential is my word. Love it.
Okay.
To go back to Everything Ever All at Once, # spoiler alert.
Okay, so this one, guys, is a spoiler.
This one is a spoiler. In Everything Everywhere All at Once, our hero can only jump. She can only make it to so many distinct parallel universes or daughter universes because she has the potential for growth, for such incredible growth in her current universe.
I love this aspect of the film.
So the fact that she has so much not in her favor, like her marriage, the taxes, the failing business, the family relationships, familiar relationships, all going so negatively. Like nothing is working out for our hero in the universe we see her in at the start. Because of this, she can grow in so many ways that can lead her to the self she is in other universes. So she can take so many different routes to become better. And there's so much she can do to transform. And that idea for me is so powerful. Like that's so healing. That's so hopeful. That's like a message that I want to hear and that I want to carry with me.
Yeah.
Like to know that when you're the most down on your luck in this universe, in this idea of bubble universes connecting to probability,
it's fine.
That's when you have the most opportunity to be amazing. What?
Yeah. So good. And they also had a bit of humor when that was revealed too, and I love that.
So much humor. When you watch it, you'll know. If you haven't watched it before you listen to this podcast, please afterwards comment and like tell us when you understand what we're talking about. Because I did want to spoil a little bit, but
I know
not all of it. There's so much to enjoy within this film, but I think it comes back to the idea that we are still meaningful in all the infinite combinations there are of ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think we really like multiverse in this modern time period, like in the here and now, because kind of similar to superhero movies, which is a massive genre, and I think we're kind of coming out of it.
It's so big at the moment. So, I mean, you could classify this one as a superhero film as well.
Yeah, but I think we're coming out of kind of like the really cookie cutter superhero films and finding
I think so.
What about them makes us most excited and most love them. Because I think superhero movies, they really speak to our craving of like individual importance of like me, I have super strength, I can fly, I'm super cool.
Yeah.
But I think in this version, in this superhero, if Evelyn is one, which she definitely could be, is that becoming a superhero is achievable because of your potential. Let me say the word potential again. Oh my goodness. You can be the best version of yourself. And in another parallel universe, you already are.
Yeah.
How freeing is that as a thought?
I know, it is.
To know that somewhere you are the best version of yourself and you could get there again.
Yes.
Maybe through a different path, but you can be there. That makes me so happy.
Yeah, yeah. For sure.
Okay, mini roundabout potential over. Love it. Love it. I also want to speak about, in these modern times, we be loving multiverse. We be loving this feeling of individual importance that is achievable. But one of the earliest pieces of multiverse fiction that I found is called Sideways in Time.
Did you read it?
I read the first little bit. It's a short story, so it's quite easy to read.
Yeah.
And it is available like just online if you want to find it. But it's from 1934. And it's a piece of science fiction. And the idea behind it is that this is so crazy. Yeah. This is so crazy.
Ella, please tell me.
The idea behind it is that if you travel along the latitude of the Earth, you travel in time. So you could go forwards or backwards in time, depending on your latitude. But if you travel through longitude, which normally you are doing, normally you're not just going like up and down one little slice of the Earth, but if you go across, you travel through times and universes.
Yeah. I love this way of thinking about it.
That is so cool, and that feels so modern. Something that I love about sci-fi is that it's almost timeless.
Yeah.
Like good ideas feel timeless.
Yeah. For sure. I absolutely love that way of explaining it. Because I've never thought about it in a different, it's traveling, but like in a different direction.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of like space-time.
Yeah. Yeah. The way I like to think about it is slices of bread stacked on top of each other.
Wait, so what's the bread?
So think of the loaf as the multiverse, and then the slices are the parallel universes that you can jump between.
So we are like one slice of bread in the multiversal loaf.
Yeah,
and we're just like traveling up and down to different slices of the loaf. Like we're all part of the same big one.
Yes,
but what we think is big is actually only a slice.
Yes,
that's sick.
Yeah. And I actually found out that in a Doctor Who episode, parallel universes are described in this way.
Really?
Yes.
Whoa.
The Master, let me get the notes up on what he says. Oh, no, sorry, it wasn't the Master. It was the 10th Doctor.
Ooh.
So from the new series, said billions of parallel universes exist all stacked up against each other. with the void as the dark space in between.
Mm-hmm. All I can think of, the only image in my head right now is like a universal Jenga tower.
Yeah. Yes.
Imagine some celestial being playing space Jenga, but our universe is on the blocks. I really enjoyed that idea.
Oh my gosh.
So is that the only time parallel universes appear in Doctor Who? Surely not, right?
So the Master, this is why I thought it was a Master. So the Master in another episode said that traveling between dimensions is traveling sideways in time. Literally says sideways in time if you like, rather than forward or back.
That is a reference if ever I heard one. Hello.
I know, right? So obviously whoever wrote that episode must have read
the OG.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't finished it.
That's okay.
We can finish it together.
Yes.
Me, you, and all of our listeners.
Yes.
When we eventually publish this
This
episode.
is our sneaky extra recommendation, I guess.
Watch us as this podcast goes on and on, just finding more ways to sneak in recommendations. Speaking of recommendations, but not at all, because that would be sneaky. I wanted to touch on really quickly too, like they touch on it in Doctor Who, but in Star Trek, in the original series.
I want to hear about what Star Trek does.
Okay, I'm a massive Star Trek fan. In the original series, in 1967, they released an episode about mirror universes. It's called Mirror Mirror. It is crazy. This episode is kind of like, Captain Kirk and friends get transported to a different universe because of an ion storm. Don't worry about the science. It doesn't make sense. And in this parallel universe, everyone has goatees and is evil. And that's the distinction they make, which I think is so funny. Like, you could do anything and they're slightly evil and have goatees.
I mean, like, kind of similar to some of the things Everything Everywhere.
Kind of similar,
right?
but
also different.
Yeah. Not as, I don't think it was as well thought out. Like, I think when Everything Everywhere did it, it was for comedic aspect. Whereas in 67, I don't think this is for comedic aspect. I think they thought it was like genuinely like,
you have a goatee, therefore you're evil.
Yeah. So yeah, some of the characters kind of get swapped between universes, and they have to kind of find their way back, which is super fun while trying not to be discovered. And there are a whole bunch of things we could go there into, like time paradoxes as well, and looking at yourself in a different universe. Oh my god, the Umbrella Academy.
That's I haven't seen that. But
okay, well, parallel universe is there.
Ooh,
just made that connection again. I was watching it last night. So good. But this is in Star Trek in 67. This is one of the first times we see parallel universes or multiverse appear on screen. And I think that's so fun. And even though the episode itself isn't like incredibly deep and meaningful, the fact that when they rebooted Star Trek recently, that there's current movies with Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto, that is known as the alternate original series. So essentially it's the same characters from the 60s.
Yes.
But they explicitly say this is a different timeline to those. Here's Leonard Nimoy, who's coming in as Spock from the original timeline, who can interact with Spock in the alternate timeline.
Oh my gosh.
Like, from a way to introduce the same kind of characters and plot and stories from the 60s into now, and to explicitly make that connection. I think that is so gratifying to a whole bunch of fans, and is like meaningful in a way it wouldn't be if you didn't do that. Like, it gives it so much more context, and I love that. So that's me expressing my love for Star Trek.
And with the mirror universe, how far do they take that? Like, for instance, if a character moves forward in one universe, does the other one move backwards? Like a mirror action?
No, not at all. They just use it as a word. Like, I don't think they thought it through a lot. But just the fact that you could see it back then was so cool. And it is one of the most parodied versions of parallel universes that has happened, because it's so iconic. Like, Mirror Mirror as a Star Trek episode is so iconic because it's just weird. It's just weird in the goatees.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you ever see a bit of like kind of space related media where they go into a parallel universe and someone is evil and has a goatee, 99% sure that's a Star Trek reference, just because they think it's funny. And they're right. It is funny.
Yes. Yeah. It is.
It is.
So those are some modern examples of
Yeah.
multiverse. So we got the big sci-fi TV shows like Star Trek, Doctor Who, everywhere, everything, everywhere, all at once. It's such a mouthful to say, so I'm so sorry, guys. Bear with us. But we've actually been obsessed with the idea of another world for a really long time.
This is so cool. Okay, tell me, Isabel.
Yeah.
How long is a long time? When you're talking
like
about space
the beginning
time.
of humans, probably. If you think about all the alternate versions of Earth we have from myths and legends and just religion,
a lot of them kind of fall back on those ideas, right?
like you could say that hell and heaven
are alternate
universes. Yeah, Valhalla, Olympus.
That's so cool.
Right.
So it's something that we've actually kind of been thinking about as humans for like a long time,
Yeah.
but have been expressing more recently through multiverse theory.
Yeah. So we've always been thinking about it subconsciously. Maybe we have an instinct that the multiverse is real.
Can we talk about that? I don't know if I can talk about it. I think my head would explode. But that's a really cool connection to make throughout humanity. That we're always like, but in another world, but in another life.
Yeah.
And it's kind of coming to a head now.
Mm-hmm. So why do we think it's so hot at the moment?
So this is something we've spoken about quite a lot.
A lot. We have a lot of ideas.
We have a lot of ideas. One answer that we'll say for like the very end of this discussion that makes me the most happy and satisfied. But one of the many ideas we've been tossing around is the version of escapism that multiverse allows. I think especially in daughter universes with the probability and it really comes down to your individual choices. I think this form of escapism is so hot right now because you can take it where you want it to be.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And that's really appealing. It's not even like escapism of I'm going to disappear into this book and not be seen. It's like I'm going to disappear into this world where I am loving life. Mm-hmm. And that's so cool. I don't have to be on this path. Any choice I make can make my life better. Yeah.
That's why it just made me think of some of the video games I've played and it's trying to simulate that, I think, as well. Because you're like actually becoming the character and like walking your character around and exploring another world and things.
Yeah, but the character is you.
But yeah, exactly. So they've kind of taken the next level. Another thing I've thought about is this idea of freedom from fate. So you have control of your future and can be anything you choose.
And that kind of makes it a little bit different from like hell and heaven and Olympus and Valhalla, but kind of the same also.
I know, right?
Which is weird.
Yeah.
It feels different, but it kind of takes you to the same place. No, different place, same reasoning.
Yes.
Like your fate isn't necessarily to go to Valhalla or Olympus until you make it.
Yes. Yeah. And
that's so cool.
I know. It is pretty cool. And I also read somewhere someone talking about how the multiverse is like an inverse of having an existential crisis.
What?
Because
so instead of having an existential crisis.
Because it's saying like your life does matter. It's like reaffirming that your life matters and all versions of yourself matter everywhere.
So it's kind of like when it gets really wacky and everything everywhere, it's kind of like a version of absurdism, which is like, a smaller part of existentialism, which is like nothing means anything, therefore everything means everything.
Yeah.
I really enjoy this idea.
Yeah.
That makes me really happy. I have a massive smile on my face. Yeah. That's such a cool thought. So everything matters because it's all happening.
Yes.
Or because it's all happening, everything matters.
Yeah.
Both.
You could think about it that way too. Yeah.
I love it. And I think another reason that multiverse is so cool right now, and this is kind of like the first idea we had when we were like, let's turn this into a podcast episode.
Yeah.
Is that it's the next big idea.
Yes.
Like, I think we're kind of moving a little bit away from quantum.
Yeah.
And the quantum woo as a trope that we see in sci-fi time and time again.
Yeah. So quantum woo is this thing that they do in a lot of sci-fi films or books where they don't have to explain the science. They go, quantum.
Because
just use the
it's
word
kind of
quantum.
like shorthand for you won't understand it, so don't try.
Yeah.
Which I think is really lazy and also doesn't take into account the intelligence of your audience.
Yeah.
And
I think so too.
one of the principles of science communication is if you think your audience is dumber than you will never communicate to them effectively.
Yeah.
That is not a good way to view an
100%.
audience. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Also, as if you're more intelligent than everyone else in your audience.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
ego time. Yeah, and I think quantum woo, it kind of started as this thing where they were like quantum and everyone was like, whoa, that's so cool.
Yeah, it worked for a little bit, but now I think we're kind of over it.
I think the saturation of it and the fact that it keeps being shorthand and like it is more lazy, and also because it kept being tossed around, like diehard fans and with the accessibility of information, people look it up and they try to understand it, which is really awesome. And people are so intelligent and can go in absolutely deep dives, which is awesome. Yeah, and I think it's kind of stuck in those ways. But I also think it's really funny because some of multiverse theory, as I said way back in the start of this podcast, is built on quantum mechanical theory.
Yeah, it is.
Or
So
mechanic theory.
So it's actually applying quantum physics.
Yeah, it's like an extension of it.
It's like the next step, really.
It's like the next step, but also it's like a small enough section of it that you can try to explain it because you're not trying to explain all of quantum.
Yeah.
You can get away with like explaining little bits, which is really cool. And there's this quote from this paper I was reading, and this was kind of going through like the history of multiverse from a physics perspective.
Yeah.
And this is, it says historically there were many different versions of the theory of the multiverse based on the many world interpretation of quantum mechanics and quantum cosmology. So that's kind of like two areas of quantum that multiversal theory is based in historically, and it's kind of then since like grown and changed. And it touches on, again, the different versions of this because, like, as much as multiverse contains, almost infinite versions of the universe, there are very much almost infinite versions, it feels like, of theory about multiverse too.
Yes.
Which is so cool. That's a really fun parallel.
Yeah. And I mean, physicists will all think differently about it too.
Yeah.
Sure. So
I love it. And going back to kind of that idea of, like, I think multiverse acknowledges the watcher, the viewer, the listener, whatever medium this is coming from a popular culture perspective. It acknowledges them as intelligent.
Yeah.
And kind of like gives them, little bits of information. So kind of like how we were saying that it uses a little bit of quantum mechanics to explain multiverse.
Yeah.
One of the things I came out immediately of the film saying to you was that Everything Everywhere All at Once in ways is complex without nuance.
Yeah.
And in other areas it's nuanced without too much complexity.
Yes.
And just think about it. Think about that phrase, because I think the more you think about it, it makes sense. Because it is complex and it is nuanced in areas, but it kind of doesn't do that all at once. Like, it does overwhelm you, but not in a way that makes you feel dumb. In a way that your brain is playing catch up because you understand some of it and you're trying to make it make sense, and it's huge.
Yeah.
Theories you're trying to fit into your brain and like understandings. And I think it does so in a way that makes it enjoyable and accessible. I really love it.
Yeah. Yes. There are just so many reasons to really like this film.
I highly rate. It's an absolute 5 out of 5 stars for me.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about when we first started throwing around ideas for this podcast as well. I was talking to you about these Tom Scar sketches.
That's right. The YouTube ones, right?
The YouTube ones.
Yeah.
This is like a 4-part YouTube skit that talks about parallel universes. So that's the nuance that he involves. And the complexities, like how they work, just aren't explained. So like in a feature-length film, Everything Everywhere All at Once had time to explain to us how the universe has worked.
Yeah.
This sketch just went with the premise of, well, you understand that they do work, so you don't need to know how they work, which I think is like really, really fun for a short form piece of content. And the first video, at least, from the Meanwhile series, delivered 14 parallel universe jokes in under 90 seconds.
Yeah, that's right.
It came out in 2012.
The thing, you could understand it straight away.
Yeah.
Too.
It just assumed you're intelligent, you could follow it, and you can. And it was really enjoyable. Like, it has over 14 million views on YouTube, came out in 2012. So clearly it was loved by people and they found it accessible.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a huge a huge part of why multiverse is so hot right now, is because you can choose a mixture of like the nuance and the complexities to engage with people on different levels. And whether that's through like an absolute saga of science fiction, or a short story, or a 90-second YouTube video, or a 2-hour-long feature film, or a podcast. I think everyone can find a medium where it works for them and the level of engagement they want. And that's really cool. But what is, Isabel, what is our number one kind of why we think it's so hot?
Science communication reason.
I love immediately.
It's entertaining, but also letting you learn as ultimate satisfaction. So you're getting both entertainment and learning something.
So it's like challenging you or like stimulating you intellectually.
Yeah.
And also you're having a great time.
Which I love.
Yeah.
You love. I think a lot of people like as well. Especially if you're over some of the superhero films where it's just, which are great, but it's just like lots of action and not much intellectual stimulation.
I feel like they kind of take you seriously as a viewer and they almost value you more. And I think as an audience, you can really appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're actually putting in the effort to explain some of the science parts of it too. And not just going, quantum, yep.
Yeah. Like they do push your brain a bit, and that's kind of why it's mind-boggling. Like we both came out of the film feeling drunk.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I forgot that I owned legs. It was my brain was so busy thinking about the film.
I don't know how I drove us home.
I was impressed. I was very impressed. But I think that was why it was such a satisfying experience, because it gave you something to think about once you left the cinema as well.
Yes.
Like it stayed with you because there was more to process and more to like help that.
And that's my favorite type of film.
Yeah.
If you know me, I love films that do that, where you can like go and think about it, mull over it for a bit afterwards, think about it more. Then you can have a discussion with someone afterwards and can watch it so many different times and get something different out of it too. Like learn something new the next time you watch it.
It's kind of like a parting gift as well. It's like your experience doesn't end when the film stops. That's actually when your experience starts.
Yes.
Yes.
I hadn't thought about that, but absolutely.
The words are coming out of my mouth and I was like, wait, this is such a good point. I'm so excited to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the fact that it stays with you and that it does satisfy you and engage you, and every part of you that finds something enjoyable. Like I think our generation, we spoke about this, our generation also wants to find like satisfying meaning within our work.
Yeah.
To a degree that it's now noticeable generationally. But we also want to find like satisfaction within the media we consume. Like it can't just be entertaining. I think we want it to be more. And I think multiverse really hits well for us here.
Yeah, I think so. And for my individual section, which I'm tossing around names to call it, and at the moment I'm calling it Ideas with Isabel. How do we feel about that?
I like it. I like it.
Could also be another reason why multiverse is appealing. But I think the movie could also be read as a metaphor for the information overload we're having at the moment, and this kind of collective ADHD from just being chucked so much information
constantly.
Yeah, so news articles, social media, TV,
advertising,
absolutely.
It was like we're constantly bombarded with information in this life. Like even when you're not looking for it, it just comes at you.
Yeah.
So I guess that really does fit into the film. Like she wasn't looking to explore the multiverse and somehow.
Yeah, but I think because of the way the movie is filmed too, it's wonderfully chaotic as well. Like it's non-stop, overwhelming tornado of a million different things being thrown at you at once, which is how I feel a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel like that. Like I feel like that. I know for a fact that like 50% of my TikTok algorithm, those creators feel like that too.
Yeah.
I feel like
probably
a lot of people, especially in our generation, just like growing up with so much media.
Yeah, information age.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think there was a bit of a subconscious thing happening with the directors and writers. So I found out that the directors actually read up on ADHD.
Did they?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Because they were having speculations like, oh, maybe the character has ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
Or, yeah. And one ended up getting diagnosed with ADHD because of this film. Would you believe?
Sorry, what?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Because he was reading about it and thinking, oh, this is like how I feel. So obviously that's an individual experience, but I think it's also this collective, like I was saying, is collective ADHD we have at the moment with all the skim reading and stuff that's happening.
And the expectation too as well.
Yes.
Like I think the expectation to constantly be overloading your brain, and that kind of goes back to like entertainment and learning being satisfying. But I think because we are expected to learn something from like everything we do, even if it's just like our free time and we're watching a film.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can see that the character, Evelyn, is pretty distractible, I would say, and can jump rapidly between 100 different things.
Yeah.
Too, which is sort of what, obviously not as extreme, but what we experience sometimes, I think. Well, we're expected to jump between.
There are so many similarities.
Yeah.
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 That's so cool.
So you could take the film as a reminder to take a break from
everything.
From everything everywhere all at once. And just experience the moment.
And those around you.
And those around you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so nice.
Yeah, right?
That's so nice. My final one, how do we relate this film to X-Men First Class? Not even this film, but Multiverse. I wanted to talk a bit like about there's multiverse in comics is one of the one of the founding kind of principles of like these Marvel or comic like universes, because it is universes. Like we have the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and all the characters interacting with each other, and they can die in one universe, be reincarnated as another person, another one. Comics are really, really fluid with it. I think because the visual medium really allows them to. And I was going to talk about that. And I was going to talk about how in Days of Future Past, which is a sequel to X-Men First Class, the greatest film of all time, it kind of is like a two universes meeting, like a parallel universe of like, or even a daughter universe of like this choice has made you not killing this guy has made this thing happen. So I was really prepared to make some kind of like some big leaps and like really tie some things together with tape and like bound them all up and bundle them. And then I watched Doctor Strange's Multiverse of Madness.
Okay.
Which is a film we didn't discuss very much within this podcast because I watched it and I really wasn't a fan.
I didn't like it.
I really wasn't a fan. I don't think they did multiverse justice. I don't think they did female characters justice. They really kind of wrote them out, which is wild.
Which was another great thing about Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
The female leads
were amazing and phenomenal.
Yeah.
And not two-dimensional, which I really shouldn't have to praise in this day and age, but here we are.
Oh dear.
But in Multiverse of Madness, maybe one of the best bits was that there's kind of like this alternate these alternate kind of like versions of superheroes you know very well. So it's not Steve Rogers as Captain America.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a big like reveal, like it's definitely fan servicey, and I'm sure everyone enjoyed it. And then who do I see but Charles Xavier pop up in the scene?
Wait. The same actor?
So it's not James McAvoy. It was Patrick Stewart. So Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
Who is not my Charles. And this is the only thing that makes me okay with what happened because spoiler alert, this is a major spoiler.
Okay, that's
this is
fine.
a major
I'm
spoiler.
not going to watch the film probably.
Don't. They kill Charles Xavier.
Oh, excuse me?
Yeah, he goes into like Wanda's mind and is like, I'll help you. And she snaps his neck.
Oh.
Distressing.
Damn.
So not cool. So not cool. That is my boy. How dare you? But it's okay. It's not canon to me because it's not my Charles. My Charles is alive and he lives in X-Men First Class every single day, which makes me happy. That's just another reason to not like Multiverse of Madness. I think it was a little bit lazy in the way it showed multiverses or alternate universes, parallel universes, daughter universes. It didn't explain any of the fun stuff that we spoke about of engaging with people and giving them kind of like some of the science or like a bigger idea to comprehend.
Yeah.
It didn't really work. It didn't really work out for me. I did like some of their visualization of kind of like the universes as networks, which is something we saw also within Everything Everywhere.
Yeah.
So kind of like them all as kind of like information nodes that are connected on a web.
Yeah, which is kind of a different way of thinking about it to sideways in time.
Definitely.
It's like two different ways of,
I think it's a very modern way of visualizing it.
Mm.
And I guess Multiverse of Madness also touched on different universes happening within dreams, or dreams being an alternate universe, which is an idea that we were excited for.
I was waiting for someone to explore that, but it sounds like they didn't do that justice either.
Yeah, I just didn't get the satisfaction out of it. It's a good popcorn film. Like, put it on, eat a bunch of popcorn, and you don't have to think about it. But ultimately, I want more than that as a viewer.
Yeah.
And I think that's the trend we're seeing.
Yeah.
But speaking of trends, so like multiverses now, we've kind of gone past quantum woo.
Mm.
What do you think is going to come next?
Ooh,
or like
in
companion to multiverse?
Yeah.
Like,
and also, do you think we do live in a multiverse?
Yeah, dear viewer, dear listener, what is your take? Has this podcast kind of like, or these discussions of ideas rearranged your mind a little bit? Because I felt like my mind had been rearranged.
So. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I also want to know, like, what other forms of media have you consumed that you found satisfying because they use both your brain and they entertained you simultaneously?
Yes. I can think of a few examples myself. But yes, I want to hear what
I want to hear more. I want to know.
Yeah.
It very much excites me. Give me something better than Multiverse of Madness, please. It should not be hard.
Oh, dear. Or Multiverse of Madness.
I know, we're really riffing on it. But I think, compared to Everything Everywhere, which is so much fun.
Yeah.
It just didn't live up to the hype.
Yeah.
And that's on being a multiverse nerd. Now I have opinions on multiversal theory and how it's portrayed in media.
Yes.
Very, very big opinions.
That's okay.
So I guess that's the note we'll end it on.
Yeah?
I
think so. So thanks everyone for listening. Stay nerdy.
Definitely stay nerdy.
And we'll talk to you next time.
See you next time. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples are the first scientists, and scientists from the longest continuous culture on Earth. Cyverse would like to acknowledge the lands on which we record, Ngunnawal and Ngambri country. We'd also like to pay our respects to traditional elders, past, present, emerging, and future.
Thank you to ANU CPAS for their support and access to their podcast studio.